So here at PowerTrack, one of the questions we often get asked is, what makes our rollers different? Here we are in Texas today working on this steel pipe building and these 3 sets of doors that are all independent doors that we're going to weld together and make one door. And we put the new rollers on and the gentleman asked, wow, what makes yours so different than the ones we have? And that's a pretty common question. Well, the answer is pretty simple. There's a lot of different rollers made out there. But the most common type of roller that you see is going to be this type right here. Now, this is just the body of a roller, okay? Or sometimes you may see a body that looks like this. This is just the body of the roller, and the wheels go on here. And this is a plastic bushing, okay, that goes inside of there. This is very common, something you're going to find at most of your hardware stores. There is a brass bushing version of this, but for the most part, this is just going to be a plastic bushing. Now, another type that you're going to have is a bearing that goes inside. These are the more common trolleys that are made today. There's a bearing that goes inside, but it's not a sealed bearing. It's a bearing that does take some maintenance, and therefore, since it's not sealed, you're going to get dust and dirt inside of there, and that silica just wears that down over time. This is our body, and the body of our trolley is made with 4 sealed bearing systems. This trolley has a 500-pound capacity, where this trolley right here is going to carry 150 pounds. Now, some guys will actually put a 225-pound rating on this, but it's the other bearing one, not ours, but the other bearing one that actually has a 225-pound rating. This carries about 150 pounds. So our trolleys, when they're all put together, they have the 4 bearings in there, and you have the 4 wheels, and one trolley like this, or one roller like this, is going to carry 500 pounds. Okay. Now, the different other types that we take out quite often, we see this plastic bushing a lot. This is what we took out of this job right here. And the challenge that you have with this plastic bushing is, if you can see, that thing's pretty worn out. It's oblong. Actually, this is how it was in there, and it's oblong, and this bottom side's getting worn out a whole lot faster than the rest of it, and eventually it just breaks through, and the hot and the cold and moving them and everything just breaks that plastic. Now, I've got one here, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it on screen, but the plastic is actually broken in it. I don't know if you can see this right up in here, but the plastic is actually broken on it, and this one's already broken apart, and then therefore this thing's all loose and it's fighting itself up in the track, and that causes a lot of issues. Here's one that's not broken yet, but it's already pretty loose, and that's just from all that plastic wearing down. So those are pretty common. Another one that's very common is a needle bearing, which it doesn't have this center bushing through there, but it'll have needle bearings through there and a solid axle through the wheel. And those needle bearings are not maintenance free, and over time those wear out. Those were really, really common on the round track or pipe track, cannonball track, whatever you want to call it, on the metal buildings. A lot of the metal buildings built back in the 70s and 80s, the steel frame buildings actually use that needle bearing, and that's probably the most common one we take out. And that has the round wheel, but instead of the plastic wheel, it has a steel wheel, and it's got a nipple right through the center of it to keep it guided on that track. And those right there we replace a lot because those bearings just wear out. So that's the biggest difference right there. This is a 500-pound body, 4 sealed ball bearings in there, all maintenance free, as opposed to the newer ones that just have a plastic bushing or a non-sealed bearing system. And that's the PowerTrack trolley.